The notion that science is a dispassionate undertaking and that scientific inquiry is led by evidence and peer-reviewed study is not true today, and certainly not true historically. The human prejudices of scientists regularly emerge, not only to taint their results, but often to buttress those biases. The story of how scientists and their work have reinforced racist and sexist stereotypes, or what is called biological determinism, is told in a new book by Melissa N. Stein called Measuring Manhood, Race and the Science of Masculinity, 1830 to 1934. Stein is an assistant professor of gender and women's studies at the University of Kentucky. She now joins me. Welcome to Uprising.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. Well, this is, of course, an issue that many people, particularly students of the history of science, with a lens for racism and looking at racism in the past, have known. But what I liked about your book was that you very specifically called out some people, mostly men, who have, in the history of science, really done a disservice to science, but also to society. One of the early proponents of biological determinism in your book that you call out was Thomas Jefferson, whose views of African Americans were so skewed that he wondered if blacks were a different species of humans to whites. That's not surprising given that he was a slave owner, right?
Right, right. And, what people are less familiar with in regards to Thomas Jefferson is that he basically issued the call to arms for science to take up the study of racial difference, to kind of settle this question as to whether or not African Americans were an entirely different species, as he suspected. And, scientists do, in fact, answer that call to arms in the throughout the 19th century and into the 20th, kind of directly answering Thomas Jefferson's questions about race and racial difference.